Excellent. So welcome and good morning to everyone. Today we are going to be discussing catalogs in the new eVA platform. This is the catalog group session for Requisitioners, also known as the virtual instructor-led training. And let's go ahead and kick it off with just some housekeeping items before we begin. First of all, my name is Sarah Lewis. For those of you who don't know me, I am the training lead and also the P2P lead at eVA, and excited to be training you today. Second of all, this is just a reminder for Zoom, and since we are in a webinar, we're going to use the chat feature for anything that's not a question, and using the questions feature for anything that you don't want in chat. So make sure that everything goes into the questions portion so that you can make sure that your question gets answered, similar to how we do it on the bug meetings. So first of all, I want to start with a little bit of a poll and see what describes your role. I know this is a mock training session, but so feel free to pick which one you want. And I'm going to go ahead and launch this so that you can choose. Go ahead and pick one. Are you a requisitioner? Are you a requisitioner approver? Are you a manager? Are you an admin? Just so I can get a good idea of who our audience is today. And give it a few more seconds to get up to 75%, and then I will end the poll and share it. There we go. So it looks like the majority of you today are managers, but we also do have other folks represented as requisitioners, requisition approvers, and then also some admin folks. So this just gives me a better idea of who I'm talking to and where questions might come from, so that I can make sure that I am speaking to the audience that is in the room and not just to one group. So thank you for participating in that poll. And I have one more for you. So what's your confidence level for this topic? Do you have a high confidence? Are you kind of like, yeah, I'm kind of good with catalogs in the new platform? Or do you have low confidence about this particular topic? So I'm going to go ahead and launch this poll and let me know how you're feeling. And again, I just want to get up to a little over that 75% mark. Okay. So it looks like the majority of you have some low confidence on this topic. So what I'm hoping is that out of today, that you feel a little more confident about using catalogs in the new eVA platform, and that we can get that low a little bit up to that medium or that high. Understandable that it's low, it's a new platform. I know that everybody's nervous, but hopefully, as I said, today will also help with that. So I'm going to stop sharing and move it along. So this is not a poll question because it's kind of open-ended. What do you hope to take away from this session? So when we are in a non-mock environment, this will be put in the chat. But since this is a meeting and not a webinar setup, you can feel free to put it in the chat as well. So what are you hoping to get out of today's session? Just a couple words, just so I can get a feel for what you all are looking for, and I can make sure that meeting your expectations or appropriately setting those expectations. You can also feel free to unmute yourself since this is a mock one. Better understanding, confidence, I like it, I like it. Anything else? Awesome, Benita, more knowledge about how the catalogs have changed. I think you'll be surprised that it's a little bit more familiar than you might think it's going to be. Clear understanding about how to navigate the catalogs in the new eVA system. Absolutely, we'll definitely be covering that too. Okay, well, thank you all for writing those in the chat. I think that we'll be able to meet your expectations. And of course, my goal is always to exceed them with today's session and being able to go through the different types of catalogs and how to look for them, filter them, add them to your cart and get requisitions started, all of that good stuff. So this is just the agenda for today. We're going to do a quick recap for about 10 minutes. And that recap is basically everything that you covered, not everything that you covered, but a high level of what you took during your self-paced training in the learning management system. So we'll do a quick recap of that just so we can all make sure we are on the same page. Then we will do a live follow-along demo after we go into that recap. And then we will leave plenty of time for questions. And then at the very end, we can talk about what the next steps are, depending on what role you are in the system or what you're interested in learning. So we will talk about that as well. So quick recap. We are going to talk a little bit about the catalog shopping process and also catalog versus non-catalogs, how to browse the catalogs. Also, you heard me mention filtering. So we're going to talk about how to search, but then also to filter those searches. And finally, also how to compare items. I think you'll think it's a really cool functionality that we have. I know it's currently what we currently have as well can compare items, but there's a little something extra that I think might be helpful as well once we get to that part. Oops. So catalog shopping process. It is relatively simple and relatively the same as it used to be. So it's browsing catalogs, using that search, filter, and compare functionality. After you've done that and you found what you want, the item or the service, you choose the item, add it to the cart, and just as the current eVA does, once you're finished adding those, you can select checkout. Then the great part is it will kind of already set up your requisition similar to how it does today. And then you can fill out the other requisition details and submit it for approval. So I know it seems rather simple, especially when you're just looking at the words, but again, we will go through a demo so that you can see exactly how this is going to work. So let's talk about catalogs versus punch-out items. I'm sure that a lot of you already know the difference between these two, but for those that don't or are new to the eVA platform or just want a little refresher, we're going to go over this in a little bit more detail. First, catalog items. So these include items that are provided by a supplier and they're built into eVA. So they can be shopped for using a similar process that you would use for punch-out catalogs. And they can include contract and non-contract items. So when you're thinking about catalog items as opposed to punch-outs, catalogs are the ones that I say built in because you're not leaving the eVA system in order to get those items and put them back in your cart. They are items that are built in as a catalog in the eVA system. So you're not going out anywhere and then coming back in. But as I mentioned, they can be used as a similar process, and not all catalog items are contract items and not all catalog items are non-contract items. As I said, they can include both. So it's not that all catalog and punch-out items are always on contract. That is not true. They can include both. So for the punch-out items, these are items that are available on punch-out sites that are linked to eVA. So what does that mean? What are you doing? Well, you are actually, the reason punch-out is there, you are punching out to their supplier maintained site. So once you punch out to that, it will look very similar to their website if you have been to their that specific supplier's website prior. So it'll take you out of the eVA system, so you won't see anything that looks like eVA. It will all be a site that is maintained by the supplier. You can choose items on that site and add them to your cart. And then once you are done, you are able to push that cart back to eVA. Also with punch-out items, these can include contract and non-contract items. So again, just because something is in a catalog or a punch out catalog does not mean that it's on contract. It could also be a non-contract item that the supplier is including as well. So the other thing I want to mention about this, about punch out items, is depending on who the supplier is, the checkout button or the submit button can be in different places. So just make sure that you are aware of the different places that it can be. It's usually pretty easy to find because they want you to check out that cart to send it back to eVA. But just another thing I wanted to mention, since it's not going to be in the same place every time, since those supplier sites are maintained. So browsing a catalog. When we're browsing catalogs, we want to be sure that we have the correct area based on what products or services we're looking for. So make sure that we're looking in the correct place. And then when searching, you can be as broad or as specific as you want to be. So let's say, I'm just looking for notebooks and I don't really know what kind, so I kind of just want to browse. I'd be looking for something more in a broader sense and then using that list to kind of narrow down exactly what I'm looking for. Or maybe I know exactly the type of notebook I'm looking for. I'm looking for spiral bound notebooks with 3-hole punch page that are college ruled and have a bottom at the end or a section at the bottom for notes. So that's something that's a little bit more specific. So I'll probably define that need to filter down to find exactly what I'm looking for rather than browsing through all of the different types of notebooks. So also remember that you can add multiple items to your cart before creating that requisition, and those items can be from different suppliers. So what will happen as a result of that is that different purchase orders will be created similar to today for those different suppliers. So that is an option as well if that's something that you are interested in doing, is putting multiple orders on that one particular requisition from different suppliers. Also, the comparison tool, which you've heard me talk about a little bit already, and using this when needed. So maybe let's go back to that example of me looking for just a regular notebook and not really knowing what I want to look for. I find two that I like, and then I decide to compare them and see exactly what one has that one doesn't. It's kind of similar to compare tools that you'll see in other areas, other shopping websites like an Amazon. You can compare things and see exactly what is the difference between the two that you're looking for. So utilizing that comparison tool when needed. Sometimes you might not need it. You know exactly what you're looking for, and that is fine also. So search and filter, and we're going to take a look at this in a second. Like I said, it's going to be a live demo, but I just want you to have an idea of where those filter options are available. So a lot of the times in the new platform, you might see this little tack, for lack of a better term. And when it is minimized, it's kind of hard to pick up that it's there. So I'll show you that also, but know that you can expand it and that you can make selections on the left navigation to really pare down those results and find out exactly, or excuse me, find exactly what you're looking for based on that. So this is where that search and filter option will be. So you heard me talk about comparing items, and here's finally a screen to show you, but I will also show you during the demo. So you can see that you're comparing these two. We say different, but there's not really much different with these two except for the validity begin date. But you can see that the price turns green on both of these. Why does it do that? It will always turn green for the lowest price. Since one of these is not lower than the other, that's why they're both showing up as green. But if for some reason the cupcakes listed on the right that are decorated were $250 as opposed to $225, that would not show up as green. It would only be the cupcakes on the left-hand side. So that's kind of helpful, I think, especially when you've been entering requisitions all day, you've been looking at all different types of items, and using this compare tool, it has this ability to let you know, hey, in addition to everything else, this one is also cheaper. So I think that is a really cool new feature that I am excited about, and I will show you it in action as well. So before we go into the live demo, can anybody tell me, and feel free to put it in the chat, how would you navigate to the catalog from this screen? And this was covered in the self-paced training. Yes, yes, yes. I'm seeing correct answers all over the place. Absolutely, shop. That is where you are going to want to start and navigate to the catalog. So I am going to stop sharing because we're going to go into the live demo now. And we're going to be looking to purchase folding chairs. So we're going to browse the catalog, compare items, and then we're also going to add those items to our cart. So let's stop sharing this, and I am going to go into our UAT environment. And now you should all be seeing the UAT environment on the screen. Yes. Thumbs up, or feel free to unmute yourself and let me know.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So we are going to go to the shop at the top navigation menu. Now you see here that I have created an import. That's because I have some additional accessibility options, or not accessibility, I should say, but different permissions. So you as a requisitioner or a manager will probably only see search products, and that's where we want to go to make sure that we are looking for items in a catalog. So you can see here, this brings you to that main page, and it has different types of catalogs, contracts, punch-out catalogs, regular catalogs, but I am going to first start up here, and I'm going to type in office chairs. And actually, instead of that, I'm just going to do chairs so you can see what comes up. And you can see also that it starts to auto-populate for you, which I think is nice, because then if I'm typing in acoustical tiles and I forget how to spell acoustical, it will automatically say, hey, is this what you mean? And then you can choose from that drop-down list as well. And then you can click search, and you can see that it is searching. So here's the other thing I want to show you as these results are displaying. You can also change how they display. And that's all the way over here on the right. You'll see a grid view, but then you also have a list view. So it really just depends on what your preference is and how you want to see them listed. I prefer the grid view, but you might prefer the list view. So I'm going to show you both of them. So I want some folding chairs, and I can see that these first two are folding, and I don't really know which one I want. So I'm going to compare them. And the way you do that is by selecting the two or multiple items that you want to compare. It can be more than two. And I'm going to click this compare button. And what pops up is this comparison box, and it shows you the two items. And then, as I had started to talk about before, you can see that it highlights in green the chair that is less expensive. So that's just a way, so if you're looking for just the cheaper option, you can quickly identify which one that is, because the system lets you know this one is the cheaper one. And I think I remember that my manager wanted silver chairs as opposed to black. So because this is cheaper also, I'm going to go ahead, and I need 20 of them for our conference room. And you can see right here in the comparison screen, you can change that quantity either in the drop down or by clicking into it, and you can click add to cart. And you can see it has already started a requisition for me, which we will look at in a moment. But before we go out of here, I do want to show you the filter, and I'm going to actually reset this search criteria so that it takes the chairs out. And keep in mind, this is a UAT environment, so if some things look a little bit weird or you're like, we don't sell cupcakes, that's why. So here's the filter that I was telling you about. It's like a little funnel. And as soon as you click that, it expands the search criteria that you can filter the search results by. And you can see now it kind of turns into that little corkboard pin. So before, it starts out as a funnel to let you know this is where you can filter things through. And then once you have it expanded, it turns into this little tack. So you can filter by commodity, and it has, you can even start to type into that particular field, and it will bring up items that are under that commodity if you already know the commodity code. You can also search by contract, supplier, status. You will probably always want to see approved. I don't even think that canceled ones will be listed in here. It's listed because I have admin rights, so that's why I'm able to see those. You can also do, hey, I just want stuff from punch outs, or I want to see items I previously purchased. Also SWAM categories, and then this is really cool. It's a contract subtype, so you can also filter out by mandatory source or mandatory statewide contract, optional statewide contract, all of that good stuff. So I wanted to show you that. And then let's also, while we're in here, we will take a look at a punch out catalog, just so you can see what that looks like. I know that most of you are probably very familiar, but why not just take a look? I'm just trying to pick one. Let's do John Deere. Sure, why not? And this, it looks like it is asking me for a quote number. So that might be one where I would need to provide a quote for them. So maybe not the best example. Let me go back. Let's do another one. Anytime too that you see this cart with the arrows and the globe, that means that it's a punch out catalog. So you'll be punching out to that supplier's website. Anytime you see add to cart and it does not have that, it means that it is a non-punch out, but still a catalog item. It's just not going to take you out. So let's go look at, man, I'm batting 1,000 today. It's got to be because it's Monday. Yes, yes, thank you. Remember how I mentioned the UAT environment can sometimes be a little bit difficult, but you know what? We're going to work with it. I know that this one works because I looked at it last night. So you can see it takes you to, this is the Virginia Correctional Enterprises printer cartridges page. So you can see it takes you here. You can search in catalog, and we'll just go to something random so you can see what that looks like. And we can add this ink cartridge to our cart. You can see now, just like when you're shopping online, that it'll show you that there is an item listed in the cart. And you can go and make sure everything looks good. And then you can click go to procurement system, and that will send that information back to the eVA system. So you can see that it did start to create that requisition for me, but I am going to go back to shop and search products. Because remember, I do have those folding chairs that I still do want to get because my boss said we needed them for our conference room. totally an example. I don't actually need to purchase purchase the 20 cart or the 20 folding chairs, but this will allow us to take a look one more time at how this process goes. And I already know it's the cheaper one that I want. And if you remember, I wanted 20. And we will check out. So you can see how it created a requisition from a punch out, and then now it's creating a requisition from a regular catalog. And you can see the silver chairs are on my requisition already, and that information is ready to go. And the rest of the stuff I need to do is to go in and make sure that everything from the header that is mandatory is chosen. You can see that those are all drop downs, and that will be discussed a little bit more in our requisition VILT. So anything you see that has a red asterisk next to it, that means that we need to fill it in. Some of them are pre-populated, some aren't. So you can see in the header, it's the organization, the PO category, and the procurement transaction type are the 3 that are required that have not been filled in yet. And then also the ship to and bill to. And the other thing I want to call your attention to is if for, oh, it is not going to let me. That's okay. Let's just quickly pick these. The other thing I want to call your attention to is that if for some reason you need to add any type of comment, you can do that in the header, but you can also do it at the line item. The other thing I want to mention is that this is also where you can add your allocation information if you are required to do that at your specific entity. So once you click into the line item, you can then scroll down to the allocations portion, and you can see, you know, for whichever organization that defaults to for you. I just picked a random one so you can see what it looks like. This is where you would add that information. You can also add attachments, and you can add comments as well to the line item in addition to the header. So once you fill out all that information, you would click submit for approval, and that would go through your designated approval flow. And after everything is approved, it will then become an order and will be sent to that particular vendor. So that is just a quick look at our catalog functionality in the new platform. So we are going to move into our questions portion. Let me bring this back up because I will have another poll for you. And let me start sharing this one. There we go. Okay. And I am going to bring down my chat so I can see if anybody puts any questions in there, but feel free to ask me any questions about this particular virtual instructor-led training. I am all ears.
This is Terry Hudgens. Can I confirm the attachments and the comments in the header and the line items, which goes to the vendor?
So yes, it is my understanding that comments, no matter where they are, whether it's in the header or in the line item, are sent to the supplier. Attachments at the header level stay internal, and attachments at the line item do go to the supplier. That is a great question, so thank you for checking on that. Originally, it had been that the header, whether it was a comment or an attachment, would not go to the supplier, but we did have some end users that expressed some concern over that. So we changed it so that both of those comments, whether it's at the header or at the line item, will be sent to the supplier. Any other questions? Felicia, I think you might be, did you have a question? I can't hear you for some reason. I'm sorry, Felicia, I can't hear you. If you do have a question, so if you want to put it in the chat, that would be great. And while we're waiting for Felicia to add her question, if she has one, does anybody else have a question that they would like me to cover?
Yes, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, okay, great. Can you confirm how you identify which
Testing.
items are is a contract versus a non-contract item?
Testing.
So I believe that, and I'm gonna kind of use my UAT environment to test this. But if it is a contract item, you can absolutely filter by that, so you can make sure that it is, but let's take a look at this together. Great question. Just switching between my multiple screens. Let's take a look together and see. So I'm going to go back to catalog. And I do believe that if any of these were on are on contract, you can see that the contract is listed here. There should also be a contract subtype listed here if it, for instance, is a contract item that also falls into one of those contract subtypes. As I said, the data in UAT can be a little wonky, but that is how you can determine if something's on the contract or not. And you can also filter by that as well, even if you want to pick a specific contract.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Great questions. I'm going to keep this UAT environment up in case we want to play around in it with other people's questions. Felicia, I thought I heard you, so maybe the mic is working now. Oh, and I see.
Can you all hear me now?
I can hear you.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful, because I have several questions.
Awesome.
My first question I put in there, I see now was direct message to you. Would you mind showing us again in the order how you can select the P card? And is it possible for the P card to be automatically selected like it is in current users for everyone who currently has a P card with the agency?
Sure. So I do not mind going over that at all. It's also going to be covered in a little more detail in the requisitions VILT, but not a problem. I would be happy to show you here too, because it is definitely a question that a lot of folks have. But if you look on the left navigation here, iValua in this new platform has a lot of these left navigations that are able to be expanded and then also reduced to make the screen size a little bigger. So if you expand that, you can see that this last part is the P card, and you can select your applicable P card from the drop down. You can see I have one loaded that I did not probably label correctly, because what does 79 mean? But that is what I called this particular card, and then you would just click the save button, and then that will save that P card and have it be applied to the requisition. So it's my understanding, with regard to your question about users having P cards that are already pre-selected, that that's something that is a global change. But since I am not completely sure, I'm going to take this question back and find out if it is something that is can be set up so that it defaults similar to today. That is a very good question.
Yeah, because I know that I received questions about that because, in the current eVA, that was in the header of the current eVA. And
Right.
so the question would be, why did that change in the new eVA?
Absolutely. So I have that written down, and I will make sure that I get.
Sarah, this is Ange.
Hi.
Hey, just letting you know that there's a JIRA ticket already on that as a recommendation.
Thanks, partner.
Yeah,
Look at that. Look at that.
that's from DEQ.
And you're firing on all cylinders this morning. I need some of that. I haven't had enough coffee, apparently. Thank you very much. Okay, any other general questions about
Catalogs.
going over?
And then my other question would be in catalogs is that if there are multiple suppliers on your requisition, since it's multiple suppliers, if you have attachments or if you're doing the allocations, are you allowed to do mass allocations for multiple suppliers on one requisition?
I believe that you can do, like, it's similar to the mass edit field today. And if you wanted only one of those, so let's say line item 1 is to vendor A, and line item 2 is to vendor B. I wouldn't put any attachments on A that I want B to see, and vice versa.
Okay.
So I would recommend that you only put attachments on there that you want that particular vendor to see, because that will become a different purchase order. So they'll only see those attachments that are on the line item that applies to them.
Thank you.
Thank you. These are great questions. Everybody's had their coffee this morning. Okay. I am going to bring up my little PowerPoint again. And I did promise you that I had one more poll for you, so I am going to launch that. And this is, do you feel ready to use this functionality? Do you feel confident? Do you feel like you need practice? Do you feel like you need to review resources? All of these are correct. It doesn't matter which one. Some of you might have a different confidence level than another, and that's completely fine. It is definitely, if I use myself as an example, I'm normally somebody that's like, I never feel like 100% confident. I need to practice. I need to look at resources, similar to preparing for a test of some kind. Even though you've already done that particular one, it is okay to feel like you're not 100% confident. But what I am seeing, which is great, is over 50% of you feel confident, which is fantastic. Some of you need to practice. And then somebody also needs to review resources. And like I said, there is not a wrong answer here. You are all at different levels and might be at different confidence levels as a result of that. And that is totally fine. The good thing is that you have time to practice and you have time to review those resources. And the really great thing is that the eVA team and the DPS team are all here for you to be able to support you and answer questions. You are not going to go through this transition alone. We will be here, and all of our resources will be here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing.
Thank you.
So next steps. So the session evaluation survey will be coming. Also, remember, there are additional training materials on the LMS. This is a mock training, so we're not in April yet, but those quick reference guides will be available then. And I always like to do a shout out to the training website. And one thing that I will make sure I add to these presentations is the newsroom, the eVA transition newsroom that Kim has done a wonderful job of making sure is always updated with the latest and the greatest. So I will make sure that that gets added as well. So what I'm going to do now is just thank you all for attending, and I am going to stop sharing and I'm going to stop the recording. So thank you all today for your participation, and hold on for just one moment.